Hi guys, good evening. Can you guys hear me? Please, if you can hear me, just let me know real quick. Good evening. Hello, good evening. I can't see anybody's comments or chat. Can anybody hear me, please? All right, so I'm just going to wait for some minutes before we diving into what we have for today. All right. Yeah, amazing. All right, thank you very much. So, welcome to today's class. My name is Omobolaji, and I'm going to be, you know, taking you through the design course today, the design theory class, and thank you so much for joining. I hope my camera is a bit clear, and yeah, I hope it's a bit clear. And just kindly introduce yourself in the comment section, the country you're joining from, and what you look forward to gaining in this class. As you all know, this is a design theory class, which means that we will be discussing and we'll be, you know, we'll be discussing actually when it comes to what we actually need to put in place, principles of design, things like that. So just put in the comment section what you look forward to in, understanding in getting into this session. Thank you very much. All right, so I can't see anybody's yeah. So right now we have about 5 people on the call. All right, so I'm just going to introduce myself and yeah, so that you guys actually have an idea of who I am, what I do. And my name is Amobolaji Moses, and I'm a designer. I'm a graphic designer. I'm a motion graphic designer. I'm a UI UX person, and I'm also into animations. I've been into designs for the past 9 years. I think it's even up to 10 years. Yeah, 10 years now, since 2014. So 10 to 11 years, I've been into graphic design, and I've had the privilege to working in different organizations, working on different projects. And currently, I'm also working on my first short film animation a lot. And if you wish to know me more, we can probably connect on LinkedIn. Just check Moses Amobolaji on LinkedIn. So yeah, Bolaji, LinkedIn. So you probably like get to know me more and what I do. So without further ado, we'll start with the class. Yeah. Okay. Trying to share my screen. I don't know why. Okay. Okay, here we go. So design creation workshop. The first thing we're talking about is the design theory. So for every design, yeah, there is always a principle guiding every design. So either you are using Canva or you are using CorelDRAW or you are using Adobe Illustration or you are using Photoshop, whatever design you are actually going to be working on, there's going to be principles that you are actually like following in every design. I understand that creativity can actually like take, you know, you can actually like let your creative lead you and all of those things, but at the very essence of every design, you want to be very particular about okay, what are the principles I'm following? Because the goal of this course is to make everybody independent, to make everybody to be able to design anything from scratch, and it's going to look as though it's a professional that actually like designed it, right? So first of all, what is design theory? So design theory is a system of ideas that explains how and why design functions. So in every design, there is always a why and there's always a how, right? So when you are actually like putting a black background in, let's say for instance you're designing a flyer and you're putting black background, the question is, why are you putting a black background? Is it because the brand color is black? Is it because you just feel like putting black? In design, we don't just do things because we feel like doing things. We do things based on principle, do things because there's a reason behind it. We do things because there's a story behind it, right? The reason why you will see green, green, green a lot on probably whatever we are doing on this channel is because the brand color is green, right? If you check this Undara Studios, the brand color is green. So that's the reason why you will see a lot of green being used to establish that, okay, we are actually Ndara Studios, and wherever you see green, that is our color. For example, if you actually want to recognize McDonald's from anywhere, just look at the first color you will see is yellow. If you want to understand who Coke is, for instance, the first thing you will see is red, red and black. If you want to know Chicken Republic, the first color you will see is red and yellow, right? So a lot of brand actually have like their own brand identity. They actually have like what they follow as a brand, right? They actually have what we call brand manual. They have principles they follow. They have things that they cannot deviate from as a brand. And that is to ensure that the brand identity is consistent. Because let's say for instance now you are let's say for instance you are into marketing for instance and you probably just wanted to start do a startup and you don't have any brand identity. You are not, you know, sticking to any particular color. You're not sticking to any particular font or typeface. What happens is just that when people go to your Instagram page, they just see different things, right? I would like you to do something right now. Go on, go on Instagram and just type Kuda Bank. When you type Kuda Bank, just check their content. Most of the designs you'll see are what purple, color purple, color purple, color purple, right? So why is that? The reason is because that is their brand color. So there's always a reason why we do things as what as designers. And even though you are not a designer, for the fact that you are going to be using Canva, you are technically a designer already. So for the fact that you are going to be designing, you need to understand why we do things. So there are principles of design. I've listed them here already, but it is actually to provide designers with an understanding of element and principles of visual design. All right. So the first one we have here is hierarchy. We have alignment, we have layout, we have balance, we have proximity, we have repetition, we have negative space, we have contrast, we have hierarchy. Yeah, this is the same thing as this hierarchy, right? So the question is, what is hierarchy? That's the first thing. So hierarchy just talks about whatever is important takes priority. Whatever is important takes priority. Do you understand what I mean? So in design, hierarchy organize elements to convey importance through position, scale, and color. For instance, this is a design on one end, And we can see that the scale of this fish is not realistic, even though it's a whale and this is a man under the water. This is not realistic because normally, if you actually put a camera in that scene, the whale is going to be bigger than the man. So it's actually poor design to design something in this perspective, and you know, the whale is small and the man is big, right? So you now look at it in this instance. What is the most important thing? I explained that the reason why we do things is because of there's a reason why we do things actually. So in this other picture, we see that the whale takes the bigger importance, like the whale takes more importance than the man because what in size, the whale is bigger than the man. So the only reason why this is going to be justified, because you can always justify it, the only reason why this is going to be justified is probably the man is closer to the camera. So if the man is closer to the camera, then the whale might be smaller. But this is not good representation of what it means, right? So in hierarchy, we focus on emphasis. So what is taking the most emphasis in a thing is going to take the is going to be what you actually like skill more, actually, right? And I'm going to try to show you some other things, but I don't know if you can hear me. Trying to make sure everybody's on track. Oh, you can't see my screen. Okay, can you see my screen? Just confirm if you were seeing my screen before. I just stopped, presenting my screen, but could you see my screen before? The shared screen is blank. Wow. Oh, really, really sorry about this. I don't know why. Can you see my screen now? Wow, this is serious. YouTube, come in 1 minute. 1 minute. Can you see my screen now? I don't know if you can see my screen. Really, really sorry. I've just been talking since. Really sorry. But kindly confirm in the comment section if you can see my screen. Yeah, I guess you can see my screen now. I guess. I'm actually
Yeah, I
like,
guess you can see my screen now.
so I just confirmed with my phone. So yeah. Really, really sorry. So sorry, guys. All right, so I was actually like explaining the concept of hierarchy that in every design there is always what takes the most importance, right? So you can actually like let's say for instance you want to design a flyer or a banner or a poster, whatever you want to design. The question you need to ask yourself first of all before you start designing is not, oh, I want to make a fine design. The question is, in this design I want to make, what is important? What is the message I want to pass? Do you understand? So let's say for instance, I'm actually like designing a flyer on, I like to be practical actually. So I don't like to just like talk and talk and talk and people can't understand what I'm talking about. I don't know. I guess my screen should still be seen by now. Doesn't matter the kind of software I use, it's still the same principle that applies to all, right? So I just want to confirm if you can see my screen currently. Yeah, you can see my screen. All right, so I'm just trying to confirm. Let's say for instance, I want to design a flyer, and in this let me put it on cyan, and let's say for instance, I want to design a flyer. I don't know if I have a good background. Okay, so let's say for instance it is how good designer right. All right, so the question is in this design, for instance, now you will discover that there's a small text and there's a big text, right? So this is what is taking the most importance. So we actually have like how to be a good designer by Moses Omobolaji. So let's say this is a flyer, for instance, and I want to like you know I want to put out this flyer to probably on a case of marketing or advertising or things like that, right? So this design, for instance, now the reason why this design is so good is because there's clarity. So what I want people to see, they are saying it. So this design compared to this design, let's say compared to this design. So this lacks clarity actually, and this is a very good design. In as much as it's a very good design because we've emphasized the most important thing in this design, which is how to be a good designer, right? And this is the most important part of the design. But why do we have to scale it to be small? Is because there is actually like no understanding on the principles of design, right? So that's a very, very good example of hierarchy. Then let's move to the next one, which is alignment. So in alignment, we want to design anything. You don't want to design anything that lacks alignment or has poor alignment. So whatever thing you want to design, you want to make sure that you are actually using what is called ruler. So in every design or in every software, there's always ruler. I know it's in Canva, it's in Corridor, it's in Photoshop, wherever you see, right? So you want to align it either to the left or to the top, or you want to equalize it, or you want to align it to the this is to the left, this is equalized, this is to the right, this is to the top, this is center, and this is bottom, right? So alignment is actually a principle in design that brings wherever you are doing, brings it in harmony, and it actually gives it visual appeal, right? So appeal is also one of the principles of animation, one of the principles of design. A very good design actually has appeal. When you see the design, you are happy. You understand? You are happy when you see the design. For instance, I'm going to go back to this my illustration again. So the reason why this design is so good is because it actually has a good alignment. So if I take the ruler for instance, you can see that everything is on a straight line, right? Everything is on a straight line. I don't know if you can see the ruler. I'm just confirming again. Yeah, you can. So everything is on a straight line, is aligned to the left. If, for instance, now this shift out a bit and this shift out a bit, we can say that this design lacks good alignment. It is not aligned. So it is not aligned to the left. It is not also aligned to the right. So let's say, for instance, you want to align it to the right. What you have to do is to make sure that everything is aligned to the right, just like this. So you have to make sure that everything is what aligned to the right. So this is also a good alignment. Let's say, for instance, we want to align to the bottom. How do I align to the bottom? There are different elements. Depending on the software you use, you can align it to the bottom, which means that the last letter here is also touching the last letter here, right? You can also align it to the top, which means that the letter at the top is also touching the M. You can also align it, you can also centralize it. That's C, right? So don't mind the software I'm using. Regardless of the software you use, it's still the same principle to just understand that okay, I need to align it either to the left or to the right, or I need to centralize it, or I need to equalize it, or I need to bring it to the top, or I need to bring it to bottom, wherever, right? So if that is the case, that means this one is also going to be equalized. Can we say this is a good design? Oh yes, we can actually. This is a good design because we can clearly see that it is aligned to the center, right? We can clearly see it is aligned to the center. So that's actually like one of the principles of design. So you need to make sure that you know you are taking note of these things as you go on in your design journey. Another thing you want to make sure of is layouts. Layouts can be quite technical, but I don't think that you need it too much. But I'll just explain what layout means actually. So layout is actually like the art of arranging visual elements on a page or screen in aesthetically pleasing way. So let's say, for instance, I don't really have much examples. I don't really have much examples. Okay. I don't really have much examples. Okay, let me do something. Let's go to the next page, for instance. Let's paste this. Color it black. No. So let's make this aesthetically pleasing, right? So in layouts, you want to probably make it fine. Right. So depending on what you're doing, Sha, but just make sure that whatever is taking the most important whatever is important is actually like, you know, being emphasized. Anything you feel like, oh, I feel this thing is important for the user or the audience to see, you just emphasize it, right? So another thing you want to note is, can people see your design from afar and just grab what you're saying immediately? For instance, when you see some designs, you struggle to understand the information they are passing, right? And that's just like poor way of actually like designing. If other people can look at your design and they can't really tell for sure what you are passing or the message you are passing. It just means that you've not done a great job. It just means you've done a bad job as a designer. If people cannot like see or understand what you are what message you are passing immediately, like I don't think that's actually like a good design personally, right? So another design probably that is not in, yeah, is actually in, I'll probably move to it later. I'm trying to like just get something across very quickly. um let's say for instance, don't worry, designing is actually like the same. Whatever software you use, the tools are the same. It's either you are picking something or you are adding something or you are subtracting something or you're adding an icon or a text or object, things like that, right? So it's mostly the same whichever software you use. I'm just trying to design something and pass a message very quickly. Right. So the next principle we'll be looking at is contrast. That's where you see a lot of people fail when it comes to design, right? So there are three main spectrum of color. You actually have the primary color, the secondary color, and the tertiary color, or the complementary color. So the primary color is RGB, which is red, green, and blue. The secondary color, you actually use CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And the neutral complementary or tertiary color is white. So let's talk about contrast. For instance, I want to design something like this, and I'm using a red background and a black text. Is this visually pleasing? No. Why? What has changed? This is white. This is good. This is clear. This is red. This is not clear. Now, what has changed is that the contrast is actually poor. The contrast is poor, right? So, one of the rules I've used over the years is if I'm actually like designing anything, I need to understand the range of colors. If the background is a dark color, in this case, the background is a dark color, I'll make sure I use a light color on it. If the background is a dark color, I'll make sure I use a light color. I can use a bit of blue. I can use, I just make sure I use a light color actually. I can use something like something that is very light. I can move into probably red, depending on whatever I'm doing, right? I'll just make sure that there's contrast in the design, right? So if for instance I'm using a light background, I'll definitely not use a light text on it, because if I use a light text, what happens to the design is not clear any longer. So in a case or in an event where I'm using a light background, we can categorize yellow as a light color. In the case where I'm using a light background, I can use a dark text. I can use heavy text. Some people call it heavy. So I can use red, I can use black, I can use blue. So far it's heavy. Whichever way works. If it's a light background like pale, I can use like a dark text. These things are very important, and this is going to shape either you are going to be a good designer or a bad designer, actually. Right? Yeah. So let's move on to what we are doing. Yes, yes, please. Okay, so the fourth principle is balance. So Balance actually like explains how elements are weighted against each other, how elements are weighted on each other. So in designing, there's something that is called composition. So you see your entire screen as, I'll not call it a scene, is a page actually, is a composition. So you want to make sure that the colors are balancing, the text are balancing, the size of text are balancing, the elements you're using, they are complementing each other, right? So you don't want to do things that are out of proportion. Another thing is proximity, right? But like I said, all these things I'm just saying is towards an end goal actually, which is that all your designs have to be visually appealing. All your designs have to be visually appealing, right? So let's say for instance, all these red, sorry, all these black colors here and this one here. Proximity actually states that whatever element or object or text are actually like the same, they actually go close to each other. That's the rule of proximity. And I think I've touched on contrast, how that's light against dark colors, dark against light colors, things like that, right? So we move on to color theory. So color theory is also another important part of color theory is also another important part of designing. You need to understand color. So in understanding color, you talk about the mood of the color. You talk about like, because you can actually use color to tell stories. Actually, to you can use color to do a lot of things. Actually, like with color, you can actually like state the mood of the design. If it's a sad design, if it's going to be an exciting design, if it's going to be happy design, if you are even designing logo, if your logo is going to be, if your brand or the identity of the brand denotes happiness or sadness or wherever, you can actually like use color to tell a lot of stories. I'm just trying to go deep as much as I can so that you understand that there are different things that you need to consider when it comes to designing. Yeah, so color theory just explain the act and science of mixing colors. So I explain how that with colors you can communicate a message. Even though you are not saying anything, there's always like meanings to every color. In Nigeria, for instance, I think um when people are happy, when the occasion is very good, let's say you are doing wedding, for instance, you see a lot of people using white. But I think in India, or I don't know, I think in a culture in India, white actually denotes sadness. So let's say, for instance, I'm designing a burial poster for a, let's say for an Indian person, for instance. I'll probably use white more because they actually like use white to denote sadness, right? And one of the things you need to understand is depending on if you are going to be designing internationally or locally, or you need to pay attention to the the client's culture. Let's say, for instance, I'm designing for a Igbo man and his wedding. I'll make sure I put head of lions somewhere, or I just try to just put it, and it's just to because a lot of people want to, in as much as I don't pass a message with their design, the visual identity, the cultural identity has to still be retained. I think a lot of people, especially because I do animation, right? A lot of time when we actually like animations, background, things like that, we try to use a lot of African patterns, right? And so as everywhere it goes internationally, people know that, oh, this thing is from Africa. But by the time you start seeing some patterns and things like that, I can show you some patterns, but I don't know if it's going to be necessary for this class. So yeah, and I actually explain that you actually have RGB, you have CMYK, you have different color mixtures actually. Color mixture just explains how you mix color. You might not really need it, but let me just explain. For instance, I know that this is red. Let me try to make it red. And this red, for instance, the question is what color combination is making up this red? If I want to understand what color combination is making up this red, is this is the CMYK palette. I'm actually like, I don't know if it's going to be important for you, but I just have to show you. I understand that okay, I have 100% of pink and 100% of yellow. So pink plus yellow will give you red. So like I said, you might not really need it, but I just feel like I should just touch it. Right. So that's all we had on design theory. If you have any question, you can ask me in the comment section. I'm going to answer you. Thank you. If you have any question, does anybody have any question? Yeah, if you have any question, is there anything that you need to understand about design theory, principles, alignment? I think you can also, okay, yeah, thank you very much for the question. So, how do you get better at picking the right colors? So, the way color is, right, you just have to, there's a right way of picking colors. I've actually like explained, you need to understand why you are designing what you are designing. Yeah, you need to understand why you're designing what you're designing. So, let's say, for instance, I'm designing a let's say a burial poster or a burial invitation, right? The number one color that will come to my mind is black. And the reason is because black actually denotes sadness in a part of, in Nigeria. Let me put it like that, right? So the reason why you actually like pick a particular color is because of you actually pick up different reasons. It might be because the brown color. Let's say I'm designing for MTN, for instance, right? The reason why I will use yellow and black is because that is their color. That is what they use. And if I now want to probably go out of what they do, if I want to go very creative, I'm going to pick a color that complements that color. I hope that answers the question. So how do I pick spacing between my designs? Okay, for spacing is actually like very, very important. And there's actually like a principle I did not touch, but I feel like it's very important. And that's why you will see a lot of designs being very poorly represented. Let me share my screen again. I'll be able to share it again. 1 minute, please. Let's share my entire screen. So in every design you do, there's something that is called guideline. So I don't know if you can see it in this. Let me put in this design. Let me change this black to white. And yeah, let's say I'm actually like designing something very complex. Let me open a very complex project I've done, and I'm going to show you something. I think so I'm trying to pick a complex project. I just hope this project opens. It should open actually. No, not this. I'm trying to pick. I don't even know the ones to pick, honestly. Yeah, I love fine designs here. I'm just trying to pick the one that's going to explain what I'm trying to do. Just wait for a minute. I want to explain guideline because like a lot of designers, especially beginners, that's what pisses me off the most when I see beginner designs. Spacing, alignment, guideline. As simple as those three things sound, they will actually make your design either to be good or to be bad. All right, so I'm trying to open this file. It's a very big file, so just bear with me. And if you have any other question, just put in the comment section. Okay, use of white space. What else? What advice will you give to a beginner? Let me quickly answer that question. Okay, this design has open. So the advice I will give to a beginner, first of all, is learn as much as you can. Keep learning, keep improving. Keep learning, keep improving. And I can't say that over and over again because um for instance, I'm a graphic designer. Did I learn UI UX? Did I go to school to learn UI UX? No, I did not go to anywhere to learn UI UX. I just pick up Figma one day and I started learning prototyping, right? So it's very important that you keep learning because things are changing. Keep yourself, updated with trend, updated with new style of design, updated with different techniques of design. There are techniques of design actually. You can go to Figma. You can go to what's the name of this thing right now. You can go to Pinterest. Yes, you can go to Pinterest. You can go on Instagram. You can look at brand. One of the things I do the most when I was starting out as a designer was that I paid attention. I actually like study things a lot. So I pick a flyer. The first thing I'm asking is how did they do this thing? So in my early stage, what I try to do is, or what I do is, I actually like pick up any flyer or any brochure, and I want to start doing the same thing. I want to redesign it to be exact. Sometimes I might not find the correct pictures or things like that, but try as much as possible. Any design or any flyer or anything you see online, try to do it yourself. Try to so if you have questions, you can always ask people that are already like designers already. If you have questions, you can chat on the group chat. Oh, I'm designing this thing. You can just do like a screenshot or do a screen grab, and yeah. So I think that's the advice I will give you starting out, right? So I'm actually going to explain this design. You'll be seeing a lot of line on this design. I'll be like, oh, why are you using a lot of line? These lines, they are called rulers. I think it's actually like very important because like a lot of people don't know. And this is not just for what's the name? This is not just for CorelDRAW or Photoshop or illustration. I think Canva also have. You can check it out if Canva has ruler, and if Canva does not have ruler, what you can do is when you are designing, just make sure that you are placing things as much as possible. You are placing them closely as much as possible. Just make sure that you are making sure that they are being on a straight line, right? This is not on a straight line, for instance, because I'm actually like using I'm just looking at it and I'm trying to look as if it's on a straight line. But it's not on a straight line. Now it's on a straight line. So you might not be able to achieve. I don't know if everybody's seen my illustration. Let me try to give it another color. So this is now on a straight line. Let's say that there's no ruler, for instance. Let me delete this ruler. Let's say there's no ruler. What do I do in this instance? What do I try to do in this instance? What I try to do is I just look at it and I try to bring it make it to be at the left as much as possible. I might do something like this. Okay, it's at the left. And I try to bring it down. That's if you are designing with tools that don't have ruler. But most tools actually have ruler. And the reason why you see ruler here, this ruler, let me try to zoom in so everybody will see. The reason why you see all this ruler is because of what is called guideline. So in every design, there's a guideline, right? In every design, there is a guideline. So for instance, at the top of this is 0.5 by 0.5. I'm probably not sure. Okay, 0.7 by 0.7. 0.7 by 0.7. Which means that whatever I'm actually like designing is not going to exceed this line. And whatever I'm designing at the bottom of, they call it bottom actually, at the bottom of the design is not going to exceed this line here. So in whatever text, whatever thing I'm doing, there's a confinement already. Like I'm already restricted to a particular area. So if I'm a designer, for instance, or let's say I'm a beginner, a lot of beginners make this mistake. When they want to start designing, what they do is, I'll show you what they do. So what a lot of designers do is they bring this text probably down like this. Let me copy everything so everybody see what I'm talking about. Don't ever make this mistake. If they bring it as much as this, they might probably take this one as high as this, not the guideline. They might probably take this coming. They might probably take this one as high as this. So what's the difference between these two designs? This one have a proper guideline, which means that, let me show you what a guideline means. And also create guidelines. So it means that whatever I'm designing, there should always be space at the top, at the bottom, at the left, and on the right. Let's say, for instance, this is my guideline. Let's say I'm using a tool that does not have, this is my guideline. It means that whatever I'm designing as a designer must not exceed this particular box, this blue box. What you are doing with this white box that is out here is to ensure that the design is appealing. And I'm going to go on to show you different examples, right? Look at this design, for instance, is confined to this box. This design is confined to this box. Can you see that design is confined to that box? Let me color it blue. It's confined to that box. Let me go to another page. There are over like 49 pages in this design. This design is confined to this box. Can you see? So another page, this design here is confined to this box. So always make sure that there is space on the left, and not just space, equal space on the left as the space on the right. So if you want to measure the space on the left as the space on the right, let me try to measure it for you. Even though this is a theory class and we are going very technical here. So this is the space on the left. I'm trying to measure it. This same space on the left, let me color it red, is the same space on the right. Same and equal space. Can you see? And most definitely, the space on the right is also the same space at the top. And the space at the top is also the same space at the bottom of the design. Let me try to bring it out. It's also the same space at the bottom of the design. I'm trying to measure it for you so you see for yourself. Can you see it's the same space? Let's go on to other pages and just see how everything now looks eventually. Confined to this page. Everything I'm doing, confined to this page. Confined to this page. I want to show you a page that is not text. So you see, okay, this page is pictures and images and a lot of things like that. But in as much as there's a lot of design going on, it's still confined. It's still confined to a particular page, to a particular space rather. And your background can actually like exceed. Your background can actually like take a lot of space. But I'm talking about like the content of your design. You understand? It has to be confined to a part. And usually, the space is smaller. Let's say, let me go to what I was doing before, right? Usually, if you want to like define, let's say for instance, this is a new design, and I want to come. I hope everybody can still hear me. I'm trying to bring out something. 1 minute, please. So I'm just trying to check out something. Can everybody hear me? I guess you can still hear me. Yeah, I guess you can still hear me. So let me go to the next one. Let's say, for instance, this is a new design. This is a new page, and I want to do a guideline. I want to do a proper guideline. The first thing I will do is that I'm going to make a box smaller than the original page. I can make this my guideline, and I'll design everything I'm designing from top to bottom inside this box, and make sure whatever I design does not go outside the box. At the end of the day, you can delete the box actually, and you'll be left with a very, very nice design. For instance, um trying to give a good example again. For instance, see this box, for instance, right? It's still confined to the same box, everything. And coming. This same page, very, very, very beautiful design. But regardless of what I did on this design, I make sure that it was still confined to the same box. Do you understand? So that is extremely important. That's like one of the golden rule when it comes to design. Guideline, guideline, guideline. Right? So yeah, I think I'm going to be taking on that question right now, but I think this is something I don't want to miss. Okay, so let me check the comment section for other questions. Okay, Canvas guidelines are amazing, amazing. Trying to check the comment section. Please bear with me. And also, how do I pick image that complement my design? Thank you very much, Trailblazer, Trav, Trevela. Yeah. How do you pick how do you pick images that align with your design? That's a very, very good question. So for any image to align with your design, it actually means that that image will also help to communicate that design. For instance, I'm actually like designing a vacancy in my company. For instance, I want to put something like an empty seat and say we are hiring. That particular image actually like depicts what I'm trying to communicate. Do you understand? So your design, or sorry, your image must, communicate what you're also trying to design, right? Not all image communicates. I think some background, you might just want to choose like a very fine background, things like that. But make your background not overshadow. They call it, is it overshadow? Don't let your background outshine your design, the message you're trying to pass across. That's very, very important. And let me see another question. How do I know how to price myself as a designer? Yeah, okay. Pricing. Pricing is very important, but there are a lot of factors you consider when you are actually like pricing a client. The first thing you consider is how long does it take me to design this thing? And not just how long does it take me to learn this thing? If it was easy, the client would do it himself. Actually, for the fact that the client can come to you and say that, okay, can you offer these services or can you help me do this thing? Then you actually have a right to price. You actually have, I say price. You actually have a right to charge. So it depends. As a beginner, your price range. I'm talking about Naira now. Your price range should not be less than 5,000 Naira. And the reason why I say that is because you can go to Mushin or go to Shomolu or so I was in Nigeria actually, so I actually like staying in all of those places. I actually was in Shomolu for a long time because I was actually like also into printing before moving out of Nigeria. But you see some people they will undercharge or they will actually just charge the clients, let's say 2,000 naira, 1,000 naira, right? You don't want to be undercharging because when you start undercharging, it's now very difficult for you to charge higher, right? I used to say something when I was starting. I'd rather drink my Gary than design something for you for. I'd rather even do it for free than just do it for something that is going to speak less of who I am, right? So one of the things you want to do also, not just about being a designer, you also want to be a good what I call it, you want to be a good brand. You want to brand yourself in such a way that people respect you, people respect your work, people respect wherever you're doing, right? So you don't want to put in, oh, that guy just give him 2,000 naira, it's going to be fine. Because you also factor in the purchasing power, right? So that purchasing power is very important because if you charge 3,000 naira, what can 3,000 naira get you? That's the question. Compared to the time you spend on the work. So you just have to consider a lot of things like that. You also want to consider, oh, what are my extra costs? Am I buying data? How much is my data? Let's say, for instance, you are designing a job and it requires you to subscribe to a plan of, let's say, 10,000 naira. For that design, you cannot be charging less than probably 40 to 50,000 naira because you're actually spending money on other things, right? If you don't have access to power, there's no light, and the client doesn't want to hear, oh, there's no light, that's why I don't design your work. Oh. You actually have to factor, oh, in case there's no light, contingency cost. I have to buy fuel of 5,000 naira. You calculate everything together. And whatever the cost is for everything, your profit should not be less than 50%. So let's say the entire cost of doing the design plus fuel, data, everything is like 10K. Your charging should not be less than 20K. Should not. That means it should be like 20 and above. Let me try to see another question before we round it up for today. Um, okay, I've addressed these. How do I pick images? Okay, price, yeah. At what age should I start learning how to design? As early as 7 years old. Yeah, I started learning very late though. I started learning as when I was 14. What else? That's that's early. Don't mind me. In Canva, you can move. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Are there scenarios where you want to pass an info with the background image? If so, how do you go about it? All right. So in cases where you want to pass information with the background images, we just make sure that you just make it as clear as possible. Make sure that the part you want to pass across, like let's say for instance, like people already see your design, right? But just make sure that when other people see it, they can really understand what you're passing across. That like purpose, like just design purposefully. Don't just design aimlessly. Design purposefully. Have a purpose every time you're doing something. There's a purpose to every design, and that's to pass a message. That's to communicate. In as much as you follow the whole aesthetics, balance, guideline, your design should also pass a good message. Thank you so much for joining the live stream. I'm not so good with live stream. I think this is my first time actually. I'm not gonna lie to you, this is my first time. I really don't like teaching. Well, yeah, I'm in this space already, and the reason I don't like teaching is because I don't like showing my face out there. I just want to be one bad guy behind the computer. So, but yeah, it's really nice to be here. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate everyone that joined this call or this live stream. Have a wonderful evening.